We interrupt this broadcast for breaking news. Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. Everywhere they go. This is the Arsenal Vision pre-match live stream. My name is Elliot Smith, the Black Man, Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Hello, everybody. Before we get started, I want to make a point. Obviously, big goings on in the world. And when there are big goings on in the world, I feel sort of like it's hard to just talk about football, and it's hard not to address them. But what I also have learned over 2 years of the pandemic and all the other things going on in the world is that like a lot of people fashion themselves as experts on stuff they have no expertise in. And so it is not that I don't have thoughts, and it is not that I certainly don't have sympathies with people suffering. I have all of those things. I also understand when I'm not an expert on a topic and when it doesn't help to necessarily have another voice saying something that isn't particularly educated. So the best I can say is always, always, always hoping for peace and hoping for reduction in human suffering. And with that going on in the background, we understand it is difficult for some people to focus on football, but we are going to focus on football, on a massive game for Arsenal, on laughing at Tottenham Hotspur, and all of the associated topics around that. Paul will be here momentarily. Clive's attending the game. We may even get a little cameo from him from the ground. We'll see. Tim is going to be there as well, obviously. But here with me now is Jess. You can find her on Twitter at, don't want to trip me up again, Jessinho Tweets. Hello, Jess.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going. Oh, look at you with a fancy mic set up. You got a boom now. Boom.
I know, I have something. I don't know what all this stuff is called, but I have the setup. I feel good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks professional. It matches your professional approach to discussing the Arsenal on these kinds of events. So I appreciate you for being here. Paul will be here again in the future. And so basically, we know that the lineup will be out in a little bit, and we know that that is something that everyone is going to want to discuss, but I wish I had a stinger for it. Boom, Schadenfreude. Let's laugh at Tottenham Hotspur. And I realize, look, we're about to play. We could lose. Calamity could happen. Martin Atkinson wants to send off Arsenal players, wants to give penalties for Wolves. We know that, but let's set that aside because there's time to worry and panic about those things. Let's laugh at Tottenham. So I'm here to ask you, are you prepared to laugh at Tottenham? And people watching from all over the world, are you prepared to laugh at Tottenham? I made a COD joke, Jessica. I said Tottenham and COD have a lot in common because, especially in the chippies around England, they get battered everywhere they go.
Yeah, I'm very prepared to laugh at them. I need that. I need that in my life because them beating Man City was painful. And then everything just went back to normal. And I loved it. But what is Schadenfreude? What does that mean? Like, I feel bad asking, but I have no idea.
Germans have the best words for this stuff. It's the German word for essentially enjoying the pain of your rival or your enemy or of others. So that is really what we're doing. So I do want to say that is a thing that we are engaging in presently. By the way, Anuraj asks which Les Paul is that? Actually, not a Les Paul. We've got a Gibson and a Fender signature hanging on the wall there.
Can you play those or
yes, although not as much anymore as I once did. Once upon a time, this is a true story. I left a legal career in New York City to move to Nashville, Tennessee, to be a musician, to sing and record an album.
Did you really?
Music. And that album is out there. And here's what I want to do. I want to challenge everybody to know this, Jess. It is in the top 5 worst ever recorded albums of cringy, terrible piano pop music ever written. A lot of power ballads in there as well. If you find it, you are entitled to ridicule me.
Do you have a band name? Or do you have a name for that? I need to find this.
I'm not telling you anything. Maybe I'll share a track with you in private. But this is not a Schadenfreude at Elliot episode. This is a Schadenfreude at Conte. Did you see Conte's post-match interview?
Yes, I did.
What did you? Honestly, have you ever seen anything quite like it?
No, I haven't. But it's just what happens when you realize that you're coaching Tottenham Hotspur. You know, you see some sort of version of this. Like the best manager can come in and all of a sudden they just go into self-preservation mode within the first 3 months of them being there. Cause then they realize, yeah, I'm in trouble. And you have a team that can one day beat Man City and then turn right around and lose to Burnley. Like, it's so funny. He's definitely in self-preservation mode. I think they did him kind of dirty in the January transfer window. We know that he wanted something different and didn't get it. But ultimately, this is amazing. Like, hopefully this tanks them. And just like you guys kind of said, like on one of the last shows that you guys did about, we want them to play the smaller teams. They can get up for the big games, but the smaller games, they can't do it. And so I'm loving this. I'm hoping that this continues on, but it's so quickly that it happens. It's like within the first couple of months, the manager realizes, wow, I'm literally at Tottenham Hotspur and it's my worst nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what I thought, if you watch the video, Jess, one of the things that he said, I have a great deal of ambition. I need to win. And I tweeted that the moment a Spurs manager utters those words, it's proof that he wants to be sacked. He wants to go. Like, it is so crazy because there's a meme going around of Jose Mourinho and Conte. I guess it was from one time they faced off against each other, and Mourinho's got a big smile and Conte's listening, and the word bubble says, "They pay you to come and then they pay you to leave, and you don't even have to win anything." And it, like, so I did a sincere tweet, Jess. I'm curious if you saw it. Like, I essentially said, I've had mixed thoughts on Mikel. Everybody knows that. And I've heard criticism from people at both ends of the spectrum from where I've fallen on Mikel at times. But seeing what Spurs are going through, and now with Conte, like, has given me a little bit more of appreciation of having someone whose philosophy is sound, whose commitment is there, who seems to have the right attitude towards the job he's undertaking. And, like, maybe it makes me just a little more appreciative of our project because we're not getting bantered off by the next mercenary manager to take the job,
Yeah, I mean, it on paper, Conte coming into that Spurs team seemed like a match made in heaven. But I've always kind of maintained that I felt like Spurs, even though their players are not necessarily old, they need to rebuild and start over. And we get that they have Kane and Son, but like ultimately what's behind that is not very good and needs to kind of turn over. It's not great. I'm very happy that, like, even though, and I've had my reservations about Arteta as well, but I'm happy that we have a manager that is in it with us with this rebuild. Like,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
feels like it works together. The puzzle pieces go together. And so it feels like we're moving in a smooth direction. Now, whether we make our targets is yet to be seen, but ultimately what they have going on is, because even Conte said that they want to bring in young players and develop them, and that's not really like his jam. Could you imagine if he was at Arsenal? He wouldn't be able to handle it. So I like that everything kind of goes together, and when you have that synergy, you tend to go in the right direction. And they're still trying to cut corners, and we know what that's like at Arsenal. It never really works out.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions if those are tiny guitars in the background. I'm a tiny human, so I need tiny guitars, but just to give the perspective.
You guys, we need to find this album.
Human size guitars. They're normal human size guitars. I finally put this room together just a little bit, just the tiniest little bit, and all I'm getting is ridicule, which, to be fair, is exactly what I was hoping for. Elliot is very small. This is also true. Is this the line to laugh at Tottenham? It is. Long-time listener, first-time caller, you're on the line. Go ahead. Tottenham. Yeah, so I think what I would say, Jess, is that, like, and we're going to get to Arsenal because that's what we're here for. We're going to talk lineup. We're going to obviously go through the lineup when it comes out. But, like, I would say that, like, the reason this is actually so good and the reason this is so encouraging is because this isn't some situation where Spurs are off in the distance and we're laughing at them and they're back in our shadow. Like, they are probably the team that is our biggest threat to top four other than ourselves. And so for Conte to be doing this, I mean, they come off that win over City and you think, that's pretty bad because all of the projections of us having a top four path relied on them getting some bad results along the way. But what I see now watching Spurs is that, like, really they're built to counterattack. And with Son and Kane, they can win games with counterattack. But if they have to go take the game to the opposition, they don't really have the guile or the defensive solidity to go do that. And it's probably instructive for how we should play when we go to their stadium. But, like, the great thing about the Conte situation, I would imagine, Jess, is just that, like, it comes at a time when you couldn't pick a better time for Spurs to potentially collapse because that gives us much more of a clear glide path to top four.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, timing is everything. And if you wanted them to break down at any point, it would be right now. They really haven't been all that, but having Son and Kane is like a get out of jail free card. And so if the smaller teams that they end up playing, because when I look at their run-in to the end, I feel like they have the easiest run-in, like in terms of teams that they have to play. But knowing that they struggle against the small teams, and now the small teams kind of have the formula of how to get one over on them, basically just sit in a low block. They can't break that down. I think they could be in trouble. And then when you have a manager that's just out there in the world, basically, it's not the first time that he said that they're not very good. Came straight in, said they're not good. Couple of weeks later, said they're not good. Now he's really self-preservation mode. They're not good. It's them, not me. That's not good, So I'm thinking this is the perfect time, but at the same time, we need to be able to take advantage of that, and that kind of starts today, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And, the question obviously here, is this the first time we'll actually feel the top four pressure? I think we felt it maybe even a tiny bit at the tail end of the Brentford game, just the way we finished that game. And, we concede that silly goal. And then what do you know? We looked a little ragtag in even just the last 30 seconds, because you know how much it means. It's so silly and so cliche to say it's 16 cup finals, it's 15 cup finals, it's 14, but it does feel that way. I think the good thing here, though, Jess, if these players, these young players, can hold their nerve, they don't have to go on a crazy run. 66 points is probably enough. If they can hold their nerve and make it to top four in terms of their development as individual young players and this team's preparedness to then take the next step next season and be in the Champions League and have bigger games on the horizon, I do think this could be an awesome teachable moment and really build character, because when you have young players and you want to achieve big things, they need to be forged in a little bit of under pressure, right? And this could be the pressure that helps them grow into bigger things.
Yeah, this could be a huge, experience for these young players that haven't really had it yet. It's been mentioned before, Ramsdale has pretty much been in relegation fights his entire career. Ben White, kind of middle of the road. He did, I think, help Leeds get into the Premier League, but that's pretty much the height of his pressurized situations. And so this is a big deal. And I do believe that these boys are up for it. Everything that they say makes me feel like they're up for it and they feel like they can do it. So this feels different to me than the times where we were under pressure and it kind of felt like we were hiding from the spotlight. It feels like they're kind of going into the spotlight and really relishing in it. And if they can succeed, get really close to it, whatever, I do think that this could be very valuable experience for a team that should be in Europe next season. And for me, obviously, I'd prefer to be in Champions League. But even if we ended up in Europa, I think this team could potentially win it next season, if they were to go ahead and qualify. So I do think it's good experience for them. I'm loving this group. They feel very wanting to be a part of the change and take responsibility. And that's big for 20 to 24-year-olds.
Yeah. And to anyone just joining, again, I started the show with this and I want to reiterate it. We know there are bigger things happening in the world right now. There are plenty of intelligent, educated voices making their comments known, making their thoughts known about it, adding to the discourse around it. I prefer to leave it to the people who are a little more educated on the full details, other than to simply say, we always hope for peace. We always hope to minimize human suffering and maximize human thriving. And so this is obviously a difficult situation to see. We'll stick with the football, but that's not because we don't care. And Jess, if you diverge from me on that, certainly feel free to say so, but that's just sort of where I am on it right now.
Yeah. It's been a rough 2 years already in the world. And this is just something that for me is difficult because, like you, I tend to not want to speak on things that I don't know a lot about. So I would like to just leave it at, I hope that it can be resolved in a way that minimizes, human suffering and all that. That's kind of where I'm going to stay with that.
Yeah. All right. Well said. Well, so the lineup is out. And as I look at it now, and I'll get it scrolling along the bottom, the big news is Martinelli starts. But I guess the other big news is that neither Tomiyasu nor Smith Rowe are in the squad whatsoever. Now, I believe Tomiyasu was in the squad for Brentford. So the fact that he's not in the squad again does concern me with respect to a possible challenge with the healing of this injury. It's been very persistent and very troubling. I also wasn't aware of any Smith Rowe injury. So how do you react to, it is the exact lineup you'd expect with the available players. Martinelli in for Smith Rowe, Cedric in for Tomiyasu. But what's your reaction to the absentees?
Well, without speculating too much, it could be injury related or it could be something else. We still
Yeah.
have other things going on. So,
Yeah.
and
COVID, it could be a personal issue. You don't know.
yeah, exactly. So I don't want to go too far into like, oh, what's going on with Tomiyasu? Is he so like
Could
he
have been
can't
late. Could have
recover
been
from
late
this
for a
injury?
meeting. You never know.
Could have been. So but I think this would be more. It would be more frightening to me if Cedric had not played well in the last 2 matches. We know Martinelli is so good, and personally for me, it doesn't matter if ESR or Martinelli starts. I think ESR deserved to start, but if he can't, Martinelli is a good player to come in. But I think Cedric has done a good job, and that's a lot coming from me because anybody who knows me knows I'm not a big Cedric Suarez fan. Okay, but he's been
Done
great
well.
over the last couple of games. So knowing that he can more than do a job kind of makes me okay with this. I do worry just a little bit about Tomiyasu. I'm hoping it's not injury related. That being said, I still think we should be able to get this done. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I think Smith Rowe is a big miss because what it really does is whether you think that Martinelli deserves to come right back into the side or not, and I'm fine with it. Like, the funny thing is I had sort of mentally prepared myself for the fact that both Smith Rowe and Martinelli have an absolutely strong claim to start, and if one of them didn't, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I do think that if this is a game, because Wolves are very tight defensively, and if this is a game that is tight late, you're really looking at a situation where it's Pepe that can come on and change the game. Nketiah, I mean, I've been pretty clear that I don't think he's the game changer at this point. And Smith Rowe, I mean, his goals have been so important to our season. He's the one player that when we've needed it and haven't had the goals, he has stepped up and done it quite often from the bench. So he's not only a player, Jess, that we know can score, but we know he can score from the bench, right? And so to not have that, I think, is a big miss.
Yeah, I mean, ESR obviously our highest scorer now, and he seems to have
Crazy,
the
isn't it?
finishing touch, that maybe some of the other players don't have on a regular basis. That being said, I am very confident in Bukayo Saka. I think in the end of the day, when we're in tough situations, he tends to show up, and Martinelli is due a goal. And watching him on the bench or in the stands when he was suspended for Brentford, wouldn't be surprised if he had, the bit between his teeth and was ready to put the ball in the back of the net. So ESR is a huge miss, especially because we don't get goals from anywhere else. But I believe in Saka and Martinelli and what they can do. Somebody in the chat box was saying something about Cedric versus Pedro Neto, that Neto is back. That will
Sounds
be
like he's on the
interesting.
bench, I believe. And we're getting some word here, Neto on the bench, though.
Yeah,
So I wonder.
I'm sure that they'll try to use him, but at the same time, I think Cedric did a good enough job where I'm not super worried. Oh, and we also have Pepe.
Yeah, no, I think Pepe, the good news is Pepe got on in the last game. I thought looked good, maybe a little unlucky not to get a penalty, but looked good. And like, what I liked about it is he came on before Nketiah did, because I think if I had to pick which one of those I would want in the pecking order right now, Jess, it would certainly be Pepe over Nketiah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is that Captain Obvious right there?
Yeah, it's like,
is that what that was?
We all kind of know what's up with that. And Pepe, we have to take advantage of the form that he's coming in and the energy that he's bringing off of the back of that AFCON tournament. And I think it would be a shame to waste it. And I like that Arteta talked him up. That being said, it has to be matched with action. And I think he did look different coming onto the pitch against Brentford. And he's somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net. So, it's nice to see him come on in front of Eddie. And with ESR not being available, Pepe could prove to be really important.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. And like the challenge is you can play really well against Wolves and still struggle to create chances. They've been a really solid team defensively. The funny thing is they started the season with a much more attacking outlook than they had last season. But I think, Jess, they've sort of reverted to what works for them, which is a more defensive posture. So, I'm going to bring their lineup up here because I think that would be helpful to look at too and see where the threat's going to come from for them. The other thing, Jess, is like there's a little bit of maybe bad feeling between these teams, but there was the red card last game. We felt hard done by. Wolves fans felt, or Wolves, I guess, not just Wolves. Was it Ruben Neves who felt we celebrated too much You know, I don't know if there's going to be like a little bit of a revenge factor in their mind. We certainly have something to prove because we've got the bulletin board material about how we celebrated last time and having a man wrongly sent off. Martinelli might in particular feel like he's got a point to make.
Yeah, touching on the Wolves and what kind of team they are, they remind me so much of when Arteta came in and decided to focus on defense because we couldn't open up, and we had a really good defense on paper, but offensively we couldn't score goals. They remind me of that Arsenal. So yeah, they're better away from home than they are at home. So they're probably going to try to sit in and hit us on the counter. We know what's up. We know what they're going to try to do. And they're a good team on the ball. But I think when we played against them, you know, at the Molineux, personally, I thought that we outplayed them. I thought we had the answers that they didn't have. And so I would expect at home for it to be a cauldron. I would expect us to be able to control possession and be smart and not leave our line too high and allow them to play, you know, Jimenez and Podence into the space and behind. And Hwang is also really fast. So they're definitely going to try to play on the counter. With the whole policing of celebrations, like they just need to get over it. Like we know why we celebrated so hard. And like, I don't really understand why that was like such a big deal. But I think there will be a level of revenge there. I think when I see these teams kind of come up, this just maybe how I kind of feel. Maybe nobody else feels this way, but I feel like out of the top teams, we're the low-hanging fruit in terms of teams that are coming up to try to pick at us. We're the lowest ones they try to pick at us. And Wolves have set their sights on us, you know, just like Leicester, just like Villa, just like all these teams. And so there will be a level of revenge there, but it comes from both sides, right? Because they were talking mess about us. They felt hard done by, you know, because the goal wasn't a goal and they thought that they outplayed us when they didn't. So I expect this to be a tough match. I think it's going to be physical. I think we have to be smart. We know Martin Atkinson. We know what he's about. And we have to be smarter than we were at the Molineux. Actually, we just have to be smarter than we've been all season. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult match. But I think we have the better team, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, I like this. Never thought about this, Jess.
Yankee and
I like
Jesse.
it. I like it. I like it.
Oh,
I like it. Yankee and Jesse. There you go. Yeah. I did sing the actual song at the intro to the previous podcast episode.
What's the name of your album? What's the name of your album?
You're not going to trick me into that. No, you keep asking. I'm not going to tell you. It really, I mean, look, it's tragic because he passed away, but Elliott Smith was an excellent a musical artist who had a lot of success and popularity. And it doesn't hurt that if you try to Google me and music, you are going to find him. And if you find him, you're finding much better music than if you Google me. So I think that's totally fine. I do want to go over this again. I mean, the situation with Smith Rowe, let me ask this. It's sort of moot now, obviously, because Smith Rowe is not available. Here we go. Smith Rowe sick, Tomiyasu calf issue. That's the calf issue that's been the issue for a while. So like, you do wonder if he's having some setbacks with that, some struggles to recover. And I do look, the credit is deserved for Cedric because, like, yes, we need Tomiyasu back. And yes, he's been excellent for us all season. But Cedric is a player that we didn't want to use, that we didn't really like what we were getting from him. He's stepped in, and in a team that I think is functioning better, he's found it easier to slot in and play his role. I also don't think it hurts, Jess, that, like, now that we have the right back playing slightly more traditionally, being allowed to push up, being allowed to create those triangles in the final third and overlap, Cedric, I mean, someone said Cedric's the best deliverer of the ball in the team in an interview. Maybe it was Mikel even said that in the final third. Cedric is more of your traditional overlapping, attacking fullback. I think it's probably easier for him to integrate now that the role is a little more like that, and he's not playing in that sort of back three off the ball where he has to be more positionally disciplined. So credit to him where it's due. But with respect to Smith Rowe, in your mind, let's say Smith Rowe's fit. Lacazette has not really been impressing anybody, in the way, certainly from a goal scoring standpoint. Some people are impressed with what he's doing in buildup, but Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Saka, Lacazette. It's really three of those four for the front three positions. Do you have a preference? Let's say they were all fit for the remaining games for the rest of the season, and you had to pick one group of them and they would play all of them. How would you line up the front three to start the rest of the games with all the players fit?
I know where you're going with this. I'm actually kind of on the same wavelength as Paul here. I think that Lacazette doesn't add the goals that we probably need, but I am very reluctant to start moving and shifting things around now because what we're doing is kind of working. Now, if we had some games that weren't so high stakes, like if we could play against a Norwich at home, I would try the Emil Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard front four. But looking at the rest of our matches, I'm not seeing an opening to really tinker. And I worry about Emil Smith-Rowe in particular playing in a false nine position and getting kicked. Is he still a little light? So I do understand the want to tinker and get our best players on the pitch at the same time. But right now, when things are kind of working, even though we're not happy with Lacazette, I'm too scared to change it now. So I would say I would go with, I still feel like Martinelli gives us the most, even though I get that ESR scores the goals, but I think Martinelli, in terms of the time that he spends on the pitch, gives us the most pressing and the most threat at a consistent rate. So I would go Martinelli, Lacazette, Saka, and Odegaard in ESR coming off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think there's been a bigger fan of Martinelli than me since he's broken into the team. There's been a lot of promise there. It is time for him to go from that promise to the next level. And I think we've seen Saka go from promising and encouraging to really adding some end product, both in assists and in terms of goals. What makes Saka unique is even with two men, he can beat them. He can create something out of nothing. But Martinelli's running is so important. And the only thing that I sort of feel not bad for Martinelli, but I think is a challenge for him is if you look at the way we're setting up now, Jess, you have Odegaard as the right 8 and Xhaka really playing as more of a left 8. And because of that, Saka is really the beneficiary of the 1-2s with Odegaard. They have developed such a cool little relationship. And you look at the way they were roasting Brentford all game. The Odegaard-Saka partnership on that right-hand pod with Cedric, Tomiyasu when he's back, has been really effective. In the left-hand pod, you've got Tierney, so a little more of an effective probably asset for the left-hand side than maybe what we have on the right, although I don't think he's been on top of his game. But then you have Xhaka. So the right 8 is Odegaard, who's really that small space player. Play the 1-2s, feed that perfect little through ball in the pocket between fullback and center back. The left pod is Xhaka, and Xhaka has been doing really well, and I think he deserves credit for the way he's playing that role. But he's not a small space player naturally, I don't think. I don't think he's a little dagger ball in behind the defense player. And so for Martinelli, I don't think he benefits from quite the service that Saka does. And I think it would be sort of fun and interesting to see Martinelli and Saka swap sides at times in the half where Martinelli can feed off Odegaard, because it's a little different, right? Saka wants to get on the ball, beat a man 1-2. Martinelli's a lot more direct. So maybe if we could get some switching there, you benefit from that. How do you think that impacts it? Because I do think the left-hand side doesn't have that, the provider in the same way the right-hand side does.
Yeah, I think there's two kind of factors to this, and it's Tierney and the fact that we're so used to him bombing on so often and playing more like the winger, that's what we're used to seeing. So seeing him be a little bit more reserved is not what we're used to. And because we're not getting as much as we want to off of that left-hand side, we want to see him going forward. I think Tierney is going to look much better when we get the new striker. I think we're continuing to put those crosses in. Arteta seems to be telling the team to do things now that don't make sense until the brought in that's supposed to be there. So Tierney's putting in those crosses. His cross selection could be a little bit better. Sometimes it needs to be low and hard. Sometimes it needs to be in the air. But I think Tierney's fine. I think when it comes to Granit Xhaka, though, because it's not the right player, it feels clunky right now, and I think it's just going to feel that way. But I like that we're working on something that's clearly going to be the way forward, and whether it works perfectly now, it doesn't really matter. That, to me, is like a Tielemans that's in shape. A Tielemans that could go back and forth. That's who that player needs to be, not Granit Xhaka. But he's doing okay. Like, he's doing fine. But ultimately, like, we're just not getting enough attack from that left 8. And so we're looking for Tierney to do it. It should be ESR and Xhaka, in theory. The left 8 and the left winger should be enough, where Tierney just needs to come up and cross the ball every once in a while. But it's not perfect right now. It's a rough draft.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. By the way, this was good. You almost got me with this one. Almost like that. By the way, I do want to thank my good friend. Every once in a while we get friends and family that watch the stream. So I want to thank my good friend, Facebook user, for joining us tonight. A big, close personal friend, Facebook user. Thank you for joining. So let's start to move into a little bit of predictions, what we expect from the game. Actually, before we do that, let's get a lineup reaction from a man who needs no introduction. And so I will not introduce him. I will just throw him into the stream. And that is Pausing in My Pants. Pause. Paul.
Woohoo!
Hi. Oh, you've got Emery's chalkboard behind you.
No, I'm at a local coffee shop.
Are you?
No.
Indeed. Paul, so I was hoping we would get to have a really good argument about should Lacazette have kept his spot, or should Martinelli have played center forward? Why did ESR get dropped? But we don't get to have an argument because ESR is sick. So any strong or tepid, lukewarm, or milquetoast reactions to the lineup?
No, it definitely solves the one dilemma, which was Smith Rowe or Martinelli, but I think we thought it was going to be Smith Rowe because he earned it. And Martinelli has also earned it, but there was a little interruption. So now it's Martinelli time. That's good. I guess it's Cedric instead of Tomiyasu, because we're still protecting Tommy. And Cedric did well the last time, so I think that should be fine. I think this is good. It's great that everybody can participate, play their roles. Cedric, Martinelli back in, should be fun.
Yeah. Obviously, people asking if Paul is younger than Elliot, and I think it's important anytime my age comes up in the show to make the point that was made several shows ago. I am 37. We know this because someone said it on a show previously, and it remains true to this day. Paul, one of the things that I think was true when we played Wolves at the Molineux is that, I think Tierney had a bit of a rough game. And the fact that they play a back three with wing backs, I think we hypothesized that maybe that forced him back a little bit, that, maybe he had to be mindful of players running in behind. I do sort of wonder how a back three system impacts our system in terms of those wing backs, either giving us problems or giving us an opportunity to attack. Do you have any sense of the way that impacts the matchup based on maybe what we saw at the Molineux, at least before we went down to 10 men?
I think we're pretty used to them at this point. I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Tomiyasu would have been nice, a little bit more defensive, bolstering there. But I think Cedric's got the plan now. I think there's a good chance what we'll see is Tierney staying closer to being that guy who provides us a back three against their attack. And so Xhaka can always drop into that back line and give us a back five. I think that's the side we'll compensate from. But first, they got to get enough possession to make their 3-4-3 structure impactful against us. So I think this could play out quite a lot like our last game. They'll be better than Brentford. They'll have more teeth up front, so we'll have more for our back line to do, and we may see that role Tierney seem to be playing of fitting into our back three being more significant in our play.
Yeah. I'll confirm that for you offline, Pranav. Just hit me up later. We'll definitely confirm that one. And again, I think the Smith Rowe reporting was a cold, right? He's sick, I think is what I saw. So hopefully nothing too bad. I mean, the crazy thing is, guys, is it again? We don't play for another 10 days again, something like that. I think we're Sunday of next week. So it's just I think Arteta's challenge, ironically, for a lot of managers, the challenge is rotating the squad and keeping them fit with a lot of games. Arteta's is just going to be keeping them sharp, because then we have a game, then we have a interlull, right? And the scary thing, you look down the line, is that then naturally, what'll happen. We'll have 5 games in 4 days when they reschedule Chelsea and Spurs, and we'll probably play Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday or something, knowing the Premier League, especially if we have a shot at top 4. What are some of your keys to victory tonight? Jess, I mean, for me, Martinelli obviously is going to be absolutely just spitting nails tonight. He is going to be so fired up. The sending off, the fact that, he wasn't able to play in that Brentford game where he must have been licking his chops because we had so much possession. I think the hardest thing for him is just going to have to be maintaining his calm and his emotions, right? Especially with Atkinson dying to send somebody off. But the player I look at as the key ultimately is Odegaard. He is just going up and up and up in level, and we have to get him on the ball. I think against Wolves last game, the ball really was stuck out on the left for long swaths of the first half, and I thought that's where we were less effective. And then Odegaard had started to get on the ball, and we created a few of our bigger chances. I just think Odegaard has become the key to everything we do well. Get him on the ball, and good things happen.
Yes, Odegaard is definitely the key to everything we do attacking wise, and he also does a really good job with our pressing. So I think Odegaard is going to be really important, and the ball needs to stick to his feet. I think he was rusty against Wolves the first time around, but we saw against Brentford that he was so much better. Odegaard also needs to take responsibility. I think it's been said many times, but he went through a good patch where he was taking responsibility and putting the ball in the back of the net. And over the last couple of games, he shied away from that. So we need him to shoot, and we need him to be on the ball as much as possible. But I think also a big key to this match is not only putting the one or two chances that we do get need to go in the back of the net. We're not going to get a lot, so we have to be clinical. But stop Ruben Neves. Stop Ruben Neves from dictating play. That's going to be, I think, Lacazette's main job. Is the best times that I've seen Lacazette play was when he sat on their CDM or whoever was conducting in their midfield. And so he's going to have a big role in terms of stopping that guy from dictating. Because I do think at the Molineux, Ruben Neves was okay, but we pretty much stopped him from being like super influential. Also, don't give them good free kick opportunities right in front of the box, because obviously Moutinho and Neves are really good, on dead ball situations. And Thomas Partey needs to be the Thomas Partey that we saw, in the last two games. He really needs to be the focal point of what we do moving through the thirds. And so those are kind of like my keys all wrapped up in one response, really.
Yeah, I mean, as you look at this, Paul, one of the things that I remember also from the last game is like, especially early on, the game, I thought it was played at a very high level, but it was a little bit boring because the pattern of play was we tried to push them back and press them. They beat the press with some big switches. Ruben Neves switching it out to the wing back or the left wide forward, and Moutinho swinging it out. They did a pretty good job breaking the press with those big switches. Now, they didn't really create much from those big switches, but I'm wondering, based on the pattern there, do you think we tweak the way we try to press them and try to way to shut them down? Podence on Cedric, I agree, is a little bit scary. A dribbly player who can have some joy up that side. How do you see us maybe being a little more effective stopping those big switches and the way that they were able to break the press early in the game we played at the Molineux?
Well, yeah, Neves is a bit of a switch monster. That's a term I've invented. I don't know how we can be more effective. I could see how we could be less effective, though, because they got Moutinho in the lineup. They didn't have him last time. Those two were very clever playing together. Really nice balance between them. And so, we just have to be a little careful. I don't think we can shut them down more, but we could have more trouble than we had last time round. Now, Moutinho, there's a good chance he'll be popping up closer to Partey, so maybe Lacazette making sure Neves doesn't cause too much trouble, and then Partey giving Moutinho some challenges. But then the question is, can Xhaka also push up if they're buzzing around, or will they pull him back from his attacking 8-10 position? That'll be really interesting to see if we try and keep that same V shape as aggressively and can successfully do that, or is just the cleverness of Moutinho and Neves enough to push us back to where we end up kind of playing with the pivot? Could be very interesting midfield battle.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do want to bring something up, and I know people hate when we reference this, but we're here to make people mad at some level. I mean, what else is there in life? It is the internet, after all. We're going to bring up the ever popular 538 odds as they exist right now, and Arsenal right now 53% for top four. What I think is interesting though is the next closest challenger, 20% for United. Does that say 20%? Let me go to full screen here so I can actually read that. Get my readers out.
Yeah,
26%.
Yeah,
26% and 14% for Spurs. Losing to Burnley has been huge. Paul, I'll stick with you for a second because I know you love the 538 odds and predictions like this and the rankings like this. I mean, it's done. We're already top 4. Should we just go right into the draw, or do you think we should wait till the season's over?
It's locked in, really. For us to have a serious competitor, all the other teams have to gang together with their percentages and possibly play their teams against us. We're that far ahead. Look, my little challenge with these percentages. I mean, I like it. It says we're in a good spot. Do I think we're better than 50-50 chance of getting top 4? Absolutely not. But we're right in the mix. I kind of feel we're about, like, everybody outside of the club, knowing all of this, fancies United because they've just got the experience that, like, the top 4 feels like theirs. They're not going to get spooked over the last few games of the season. We got 15 games to go. And like my personal statistical issue with this is volatility, as I talked before. And to give you a statistical definition of volatility, it's like when something goes up and down like a whore's knickers, right?
Oh boy.
And basically, if we win or lose in this game, there's a 20% swing in our probability, according to Scott. So what's 50, whatever we are, 53, 54, what are we? 53%. What does that buy you when a win or a loss, which happens all the time in football, costs you 20%?
Well, it's not 20%, right? So the win would add like 7 or whatever, and the loss would take out like 8, right? So it's really just the fluctuation from the middle
to
number.
Scott,
right?
It was a 20% swing between us winning or losing.
Right. Winning or losing has a 20% total. And by the way, this is, so I was going over this. I'll just throw this out there and then we'll get off the models because the models are boring, said no one who's ever met one before. But like so here's the thing with models, right? Like, for example, people say, well, how can it be worth anything if it has that much volatility? Take the example of the last game of the season.
I say that, not just people. Right, I say that.
So take the example of the last game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say it's the last game of the season. And if you get a win or a draw, you finish 4th. But if you lose, you finish 5th.
So
then
it moves you from 0 to 100%.
To 100%. Right. That doesn't mean the model is worthless. It's just as the number of games shrink, each game does have an outsized impact on what you can achieve. And so we are at the part of the season now where these games are going to have an outsized impact. And I think it does accurately reflect. Think about it. If we win this game, which we certainly are going to do, and we go on to, right now they have us predicted at 67 points based on where we're at. If you win this game and, you're talking 67, 68 point pace, I just can't see United or Spurs getting there. So just intellectually, it makes sense to me. But then again, a lot of things make sense to me that are absolutely bonkers and make no sense, period. So let's stop with the models. Again, said no one ever. And stick with just these 3 models that you see on the screen right now. We'll get back to the actual analysis. But I do think, Jess, just talking about, the pressure, as we talked about, that this is sort of a crucible that these players are being forged in right now. I think what is encouraging about looking at those models and what I like is that we have this sense that it is razor thin. And I'm not saying it's not razor thin. And by the way, a lot of people pointing out that the 538 has never been publicly and widely known to be wrong about any major prediction they've made. So that's good. But like the way I see this is it's not as razor thin as people think. Like if we go out there and play our football and just stay on the pace we've been on to this point, I think we get there. And I think Arteta has to transmit that to his players that you don't have to go, look, if we win the rest of our games, that'd be nice. But what I'm trying to say, Jess, is that like just playing at the pace that we've done so far this season will be enough. It's like they don't have to change anything. Just be who you've been and it'll get you there,
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all kind of, first of all, that little model thing really scares me because it just, I don't even want to start dreaming, you know what I mean? But like what I kind of look at is the reality is we've been very, very good playing against the teams outside of the top 6. That's really where we've gotten a lot of our points. And James from AFTV, he had like a little graphic that he put up, and Arsenal get 2.29 points, like average, from teams outside of the big 6. Now, conversely, we're the worst out of all of the teams kind of fighting for top 4 against, the top teams. So I think we have to keep pace with getting the points, especially at home, against teams that are, below us. That's super important, especially because we really struggle to get points from teams above us. We know that. This is one of those. And knowing that we have to play Spurs and Man United and Chelsea again, I think this is one that I really look at as, if we get 3 points from this game, I'm really starting to think we're on track here, because this is one of the most difficult games that we're going to have outside of the top 6. We know Leicester has huge holes. We know Aston Villa hasn't really got going, so this is a big one, especially because we all know Wolves are like 2 points behind us. Really don't want that narrative out there. So I don't think it's necessarily like we have to win every single game, but I do think this is an important one, narrative-wise, confidence-wise, and the fact that this is the best team outside of the top 6 that we're going to play. Now, you win this match, you nick a point from Chelsea away, you make sure that you get a point away at Spurs, you beat Man United at home, one of those, and we're in there, and so then I start to really believe.
Well, I want you to believe. I don't want you to just start to believe. I want you to believe. Should we give the people what they want? Should we give the people something really special? Something maybe premature, but special? Yeah. Sure. Let's do it. You know what we're going to do? I can't believe we're going to do this already, but we're going to do it. Predictatron. Let's do it. Let's do a little Predictatron. Just real quick, we'll do a consensus Predictatron. Everybody get involved in the chat. This is blockbuster stuff. This is the kind of viewing that, visual medium was made for this kind of stuff. It is Predictatron time. Easier said than done. We'll start with the fixtures on your screen right now. All right. We're each going to say a total. I am going to be the tiebreaker. Arsenal hosting Wolves. Paul, how many points?
3.
Jess?
3.
3 it is. Jess, at Watford, how many points?
3.
Paul?
3.
3 it is. Arsenal hosting Leicester. Paul?
3.
Jess?
3.
I feel like it's going really well. Arsenal hosting Liverpool. Jess?
0.
Paul?
0.
0 it is. Arsenal at Villa. Jess?
1.
Paul?
1.
1 it is. At Palace. Paul?
We're going to get more draws than we think we should. So I'm going with the 1 for this.
Okay.
Even
Jess?
though.
3.
I'm going to say 1. Hosting Brighton. Jess?
1.
Paul?
3.
Let's go with 1 again. Let's just be a little conservative, folks, and see where it gets us, okay? At Southampton. Paul?
1.
Jess?
1.
All right, now we're getting a little more conservative than I hoped. Hosting Manchester United, the mighty, mighty Manchester United. Jess?
3.
Paul?
1.
I'll say, I'm going to break the tie and give us 3 there, okay? At West Ham. Jess?
1.
Paul?
1.
All right, I'll give us 1 for that. Hosting Leeds, that's 3. Not even going to ask you guys. At Newcastle. Jess?
This is an interesting one. I think we'll beat them, but it'll be tough. 3.
Paul?
1.
1 it is. At hosting Everton, that's 3. Don't need to ask. Now, 2 more games. We got Chelsea. Is that away?
Yeah.
Jess?
1.
Paul?
0.
Let's do 0. And at Spurs. Jess?
1.
Paul?
0.
Paul.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to give us 0 there, just to make a point. So we gave us 0 against Chelsea, 0 against Spurs. We gave us draws in games I think a lot of us expect. We picked up only 24 points. That takes us to 66. I do not believe any of the teams behind us can or will get to 66 points. In order to get to 66 points, Manchester United, for example, would need 20. And again, they'd have to beat us on goal difference then. But they'd need 20 from their remaining, 12 games. Okay? So that means they'd need to be on a 1.67 point pace, which is doable. That's doable. Did I do that right? That can't be right. How many do they need? 20 from 12? Right? 20 points from 12? Did I do that? Let's do that again. Yeah, I think I am right. That is doable. I don't like it. Suddenly I don't like it as much. We're going to need more points than I thought, guys. Let's see. Yeah.
Do it again. Do it again.
Yeah, let's run it again. No, run it back.
What's the points for Watford?
No. We'll get now we need to give us more points. I think my point though is that like we gave us losses in the games that we realistically could lose, Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool. We gave us draws in some games that I think we can, realistically win. We didn't pick up a ton of points and we got to 66. And look, I just want to agree. That's as good a content as you will see on the internet right there. But yeah. Thank you. His name is Paul. He's on Twitter at Pausing My Pants. I went to law school with those math skills. I mean, guilty as charged. But what I got for us is 66 points. And like, yeah, Nick, United would need 7 out of 12 game wins to get there. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a pace that they haven't been on yet this season. Spurs would need to be on like a 72-point pace now to get there. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Jess, is nothing coherent. I think we can agree on that. But like, do you see my point that we didn't predict us going? I love that. You know what I mean? Like, Jess, what I'm saying is we just did predictions that I think are extremely conservative, extremely achievable to get to 66 points. And at 66 points, like, all right, maybe you're hoping for a little help, but you see my point, right? This is not a case where we've got to go on some crazy hot streak to have a chance to do it.
This is one of those, like, the best examples of a season where, like, a Leicester winning the league season, where other teams are doing so bad, and then the least bad of all those teams takes advantage. I don't care if it's a bad league. I don't care what it takes, so if we could just be a little bit less crap than everybody else, I'll take it. We don't care. So yeah, I don't think we have to be perfect. We have to just kind of be who we've been. We may need a little bit of help. We may need to nick a point, away at some of in the bigger games, but we could do it. I still think we can get a point from Chelsea. I still think we can get a point from Spurs. So if we could do those things, get a little bit of help, which we're getting quite a bit of it from our rivals right now, it's definitely doable, but we have to do our job too.
Yeah. By the way, I don't think you've ever seen this written anywhere else before. 69 worst case scenario. Not in my experience. I'm just going to say.
Elliot,
how about this?
Can I do some quick stats for you?
Yeah. By the way, we came up with 66. Worth pointing out that the much maligned and ridiculed 538 has us on 67, and at 67 points, they think we're better than 54% to get there. So please, Paul, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think their predictions are fine. 538. I'm just saying, putting a percentage on it, up and down, like the proverbials, right? So here's my stats. We've got 3 games in hand on United. We're averaging about 2 points per game. At this point, just shy of it. So that would put us, after our 3 games in hand, 2 points ahead of United. I'm a simple man. I think that's about right. We've got a bunch of games to play after tonight. We got basically 15 games to go. We're 2 points ahead of United in my mind. It's all to play for. Could go either way. But we're in a good spot. And if you want anything more than that, if you want some sense of security going to bed over the next, putting your head on the pillow for the next 15 encounters, well, you're not going to get it. It's us and United and maybe somebody else. Like, that's just it. It's us and United. And no, you can't say, well, we pretty much have a lock on it. And you probably won't be able to right through the last game of the season. So buckle up.
Yeah. I mean, 60% of the time, I'm 100% right. So I think that is a good point being made. I do want to say this, though. I think Tony in the chat had a good point. Here it is. What I'm trying to say is, as long as we stay consistent, everyone else has to be really good to catch us. And you look at United's upcoming fixtures and like, yeah, if they do what Spurs just did and get a surprise win over City and stuff like that, then it gets a little bit scary. But that was really my only point, is that it's not that we can just collapse and say, hey, if we never win again, we'll be fine. Like, no, we could still finish 9th. It's the point that like, that we can be consistent. The other teams have to up their level, not us.
And the one thing we know about football is there's no variance.
Mm-hmm. There's never been variance in football.
Never been variance.
So I mean, it's a very, very
it should be fine.
Low scoring sport that always turns out exactly as you'd expect. Exactly as you'd expect. All right. Well, let's wrap up with, the most important thing. We just did some of this, but let's do predictions for tonight. I think there's a lot of people saying just don't lose tonight, Clive among them. But as we know, Clive is a worrier. That's why his friends call him Whiskers. Look, just don't lose tonight's not good enough in my mind. Defend your 3 points at home. Wolves to me are a team that are organized and tough to break down. They can be dangerous like any team, but they are a team that is best at keeping you out. Get the first goal, force them to have to do something to try to chase the game, watch their structure break down, and then go have a go at them. So like for me, this has to be a win, because every 3 points we pick up right now gives us just that little bit of wiggle room when we have to play Chelsea, when we have to play Liverpool, when we have to play, well, Spurs we're going to batter because they get battered everywhere they go. But so Jess, prediction for tonight?
1-0 to the Arsenal. I think we'll do well. I do think it's going to be tight, but when I seen them play against Leicester, I thought to myself, this team can be got at. That's a bad Leicester side that was in and probably should have got something from that match. As long as we're smart and we finish that one chance, that we get 1-0. So
1-0 to the Arsenal. It is a famous scoreline. I'd love to hear them singing it at full time. I may not love hearing them singing it at 90 minutes, but at full time would be fine. Paul, what do you got?
2-1.
You got goal scorers in mind there?
No, not Lacazette.
Okay.
Not Lacazette. Is he allowed to score?
He will enable all the other players. 10-1. Lacazette will enable everybody else to score because that's his game.
I'm with this prediction. Lacazette penalty tonight. We win 2 penalties tonight, miss 1 and score 1. Wolves go down to 9 men. we win 2-1 after they score a 90th minute goal down to 9 men to make it 2-1, and we're pissing ourselves. Arsenal 1, PGMOL 0. Well, they'll see about that. Life complete. Happy to complete your life. No, my honest prediction is I can see a 3-1 tonight. I think if we get the first goal and Wolves have to attack a bit, we might face more of a challenge than we think because they have some players that can hurt you. But I think the minute they have to come out of their shell and come out of their shape and do things that are a little more aggressive, that's when we'll see the best of Martinelli, right? If there's a little space to start running at them, that's when I think Martinelli and Saka can absolutely kill them. I do hope that we get the ball over to the right-hand side more today. They worked really hard to keep it on the left in the game at the Molineux. And as a result, Odegaard and Saka didn't come into the game early. Get them in the game early. Force those wingbacks back. Pick them apart. Then catch them on the counter as they try to come win the game. That's my prediction. But the most important prediction, and it's not even a prediction, it's just a fact, is that you know this already. We love you. Thank you for being here. About 1,000 of you watching at any given moment. So really none of our business whether you like the video or not. But if you do want to gently caress the like button, it would certainly be appreciated. We will have an instant reaction pod for our patrons. And Clive will be sending in his thoughts from the Emirates. You don't want to miss that. A drunk Clive from the Emirates. You absolutely don't want to miss that kind of blockbuster entertainment. We will leave it there. Jess is on Twitter at Jessinho Tweets. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much.
Paul's on Twitter. Pause my pants. Pause. I will talk to you on the IR pod, correct?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Talk to you later. Pause. in my
Bye.
pants on Twitter. Bye, Puss. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. I think we love you, and we do, and thank you for being here. These are fun. We get to be a little lighter. We get to have a little more fun, and then we get to go bite our nails off for 90 minutes. But we'll be back with the instant reaction for patrons. We'll be back with the regular pod for everybody, and another live stream in the future. So thanks for joining us. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10 Wolves nil.